The shuttle knocks against threaded teeth, a long breath of warm air, then water hissing as someone pours it into a dye vat. A woman's voice, steady, says, "We tie the story into the thread." Quiet stones, loud stories. This is the sound of an indigo yard on the Mekong Plain.
Hello, I'm Sam Nang Bradley. Today we walk into a loom-lit yard in Takeo Province where women tie, dye, and weave ikat cloth. You'll meet a matriarch who names motifs after rivers and relatives, a cooperative leader teaching apprentices how to tend natural indigo vats, and a young dyer growing her own plants to feed the loom. By the end, we'll touch on how to visit respectfully and how to support makers without turning craft into empty souvenirs.
From me, Selvin Linda, as we go, I'll add a little context, what ikat actually means, how resist dyeing works, and a few practical notes about indigo plant ecology. Nothing technical that could be harmful, just the cultural and ecological framing you need to understand the craft.
Context Corner, briefly. Ikat is a resist dyeing technique where threads are selectively bound before dyeing, so patterns appear on the finished cloth. In Khmer practice, motifs can signal kinship, village roots, or seasonal stories. Indigo comes from plants, decades-old practice of nurturing small beds near the house. Important note up front, in this episode, we will not recreate or publish sacred or community-protected motifs. That boundary is respected by makers and by us. You'll hear descriptions and high-level meanings, not step-by-step patterns that belong to families.
From an ecological angle, Indigo fera species used here prefer sunlit beds and good drainage. Traditional vats are treated with care to avoid pollution. Cooperatives we worked with emphasized organic stewardship rather than industrial shortcuts. We'll point listeners to vetted conservation resources in the show notes instead of listing dye recipes or chemical instructions.
Now, the yard. The matriarch is named May Fala. When I step under the banana leaves, she looks up from her shuttle and smiles, a line forming around her eyes, the kind of smile that speaks of decades at the loom. She tells me, without hurry, about motif names, the river bend, the aunt's scarf, the small boat. She says each motif is a map. You can read who married whom, where the rice fields lay, which path the family used to the pagoda.
May Pala shows me a bundle of bound threads. She presses them together and says, almost in passing, the words we started with. We tie the story into the thread. Her hands know the knots. I ask how a child learns to remember the knot's meaning. She laughs softly and replies that stories are taught at the hearth, at the river, while the children watch and practice. It's household schooling, work, story, memory.
What this reveals is the intergenerational nature of this craft. The skill is not only technique, it's oral history carried in thousands of tiny choices. Where to bind, when to pull the warp, the rhythm of the shuttle. That's why documentation that ignores who actually owns the motifs can harm more than help.
Across the yard, the cooperative leader Srey Mom gathers apprentices around a steaming vat. She teaches them how to read the color in the bowl, the bluish green that tells her the vat is alive. Her voice carries a mix of pride and caution. Watch the surface, she says. If you overwork it, it will sleep. If you underfeed it, the cloth will not hold. She's using verbs you usually hear in kitchen and garden talk: feed, wake, nurture. One apprentice, a young woman named Dara, leans in and asks about sourcing indigo. She grows small beds behind her house. Dara says she learned from her grandmother to dry the leaves on palm mats before making a simple fermentation. She smiles and then corrects herself. We don't show the whole process to visitors. It's our way, our privacy. That line is quiet but firm, and everyone in the yard nods.
Let's unpack that. Makers often mark some knowledge as household or family held. We honored that boundary in recording. Where participants asked for off-the-record conversation, we left the recorder off and paid them for their time. In the show notes, you'll find links to cooperatives that agreed to be listed and guidance about consent for photography and recording when you visit.
A short translated line from May Pala, who taught me a proverb while we worked. Cloth holds name, cloth keeps memory. She says it with a light, almost teasing firmness, as if reminding a child to mind their manners. That phrase hung with me while I listened to shuttle rhythms and the slap of beaten weft.
Soundscape interlude. Imagine the steady knock of shuttle, the soft slap where the weft is beaten, the wind lifting drying cloth on a line, occasional distant crows, a pot simmering. Listen to those textures, how the yard breathes, and remember the people who shape that sound. If you're listening with headphones, lean into the rhythm. If you're here on your phone, take a breath and picture the blue stretching in the sun.
When I spoke with local textile scholar Channery, she pointed out market pressures. Tourists want bright, cheap copies. Boutique buyers want curated heritage pieces. Cooperatives need stable pricing to keep apprentices at the loom. She emphasized community-led decisions. We choose what to sell and what to keep for ceremony, she said. That balance between economic need and cultural stewardship is central to the cooperative's work.
Channery also spoke about gendered labor. The bulk of dyeing and weaving is women's work. Long hours, precise hands. Cooperatives are experimenting with fair pay models, shared childcare, and training that lets older women pass traditions to the young without sacrificing household stability. It is not a romantic tale of timeless craft. It is labor, negotiation, and resilience.
Practical takeaway. If you want to visit a workshop, request permission ahead of time through the cooperative contact in our show notes. Offer reasonable payment for time and photos. Respect requests to not record or to omit certain motifs. And prioritize purchases from cooperatives that disclose how profits support makers. Avoid asking for exact recipes or step-by-step dye instructions. These are sometimes kept as family knowledge, and sharing them can cause environmental or cultural harm.
If you want to support these makers without being a tourist that unintentionally harms, buy thoughtfully. Choose pieces with clear provenance, ask where the dye plants came from, and consider contributions to training funds or cooperative saving schemes. We list vetted cooperatives and contact points in the show notes, so you don't have to guess.
Before we close, one more scene. Dara walks me to her small indigo patch. She bends, fingers the leaves, and says, laughing, "Blue is happiest when it is patient." She teaches by doing. She passes a folded square to me and says, "Hold it. Tell me what you see." The cloth feels like cool river memory in my hands. I tell her it smells like rain on warm earth. She nods, satisfied.
This is where the episode lands. Cloth as portable memory. Each pattern, each faded fold, carries decisions made by people who love what they do and who want their work to sustain families and communities. Supporting that means listening, paying, and honoring boundaries.
Thank you for walking the Indigo Gate with us. If you enjoyed this visit, please subscribe to Ancient Echoes KH to keep hearing stories like this, craft, place, and the people who shape them. Find full transcripts, show notes, and vetted cooperative links on our website. And when you visit, remember the simplest etiquette. Ask, listen, and pay fairly.
From our team, look for the short sound clip of the workshop on social channels if you'd like a window into the yard. Subscribe so you don't miss episodes that center makers and community voices. We'll be back with another story soon.
Quiet stones, loud stories. Until next time, walk the temples with me and learn Cambodia, love Cambodia. Samnang Bradley. Listen, learn, belong.